Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. It really means a lot to me. Listen, I wanted to call this video bullshit in clinical research because there's a lot of it from every stakeholder, employees, employers, sites, vendors, sponsors. I'm not going to get into the regulators. I actually haven't worked firsthand with too many, myself included. We wonder why there's a lack of transparency in this industry. And again, it's the only industry I worked in. There's probably elements of bullshit in every industry, but in this one, there's like an extra level, I think. And it's like things that shouldn't be guarded, things that should be openly discussed are guarded. And I understand when it boils down to the science, and it boils down to investigation of product, and it boils down to things that are like proprietary. That I understand. But when it comes to budgets, when it comes to what sites are good sites, what sites are not good sites, and people guard these things like they're worth something. So if you are a site, if you're a sponsor looking for a site, for a rescue site, and you try to bullshit them on a budget that you know for a fact is not the budget you're giving the other sites, and then you don't want to negotiate more, or you're trying to play hard to get, you're the one that needs the help more than the site. The site's the rescue site. I see this happening with vendors too. Vendors try to fake it till they make it. Hey, we have these capabilities when really we don't. So therefore, there's like a shroud of secrecy or mystery around the secret sauce. I get it, but we end up talking around each other in circles, and nothing actually gets done. Or if it gets done after people are already pissed off, and people are already have a bad taste in their mouth from dealing with this person that we're going to end up working with, right? And I think it boils down to people looking at activities as transactional versus relationship building. And I know it sounds kumbaya, and you can't possibly operate like this all the time, but whenever humanly possible, we should. Because at the end of the day, for as big as our industry is, for as much money that pumps through our industry on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, it's one of the most stable industries of all of them, and one of the richest. It's one of the biggest complaint. There's two or three big complaints. Two of them have to do with this idea of lack of transparency. One of them is it's very difficult to understand what's actually going on. That's a big lack of transparency. That leads to a lot of misconceptions, which, by the way, boil down to the patients that we're all supposed to serve at the end of the day, right? And number two, biggest complaint is it's hard to get into this industry, and that stems from the lack of transparency. Because if there was more transparency and people were openly talking about what it is that we do, et cetera, I think more people would become aware rather than accidentally stumbling into this industry. So this applies to everyone, all right, myself included. You gotta look at these interactions that you come across, whether you're a site interacting with CROs or sponsors, or a site with your employees, or a site with tech vendors, or vice versa, sponsors with sites, CROs with sites, employees with their ownership, with the management. We got to stop looking at these things as transactional and start looking at them as relationship building. Because at the end of the day, the companies come and go, but the people, thank God, and God willing, the people last longer. The people outlive their tenure at most companies. I think the average CRA stays 2 years at a CRO. The average person working at a sponsor or a tech vendor is even shorter. Or I think sponsors are a little longer, tech vendors way shorter. the average coordinator spends time like 2 years at a site. Somebody fact check me on this stuff. I know I'm close. The point is, this is not a case study in those trends, although that would be interesting to do. The point is, it's people that run this industry, right? And we've become okay with guarding information, bullshitting around the actual topics, saying what people want us to hear or what we think we're supposed to say versus what we could actually do. Look, I'm no different. I can be thrown into the hyperbole camp of promoting my site. Hey, how many patients can you enroll? I think we can enroll 10. We end up enrolling like 4. Well, I misunderstood the protocol, and sometimes that happens. But I think we default in this industry to bullshit. And I think the industry, once you're in, it trains you to do that. And it almost incentivizes you to do that. And then it's really prevalent at the sponsor and CRO level where they are negotiating with each other. And it's also really prevalent at the sponsor CRO site level when they're negotiating with each other. Like this whole thing about fair market value, Sunshine Act, these are laws, these are regulations. Yes, there are situations where those things are actually matter, but they're thrown around as an excuse to continue bullshitting more. And I think the essence of this, because I've thought it through for the last hour as I'm thinking of how to make this video, it boils down to humans try to do the least amount of work possible to maintain status quo, right? Like to maintain homeostasis, to maintain, like to get the job done with the least amount of effort. That's normal, that's natural, that's in our DNA, right? Probably from the caveman, the hunter-gatherer days. But I think we should each take it upon ourselves to try to do better. And interestingly enough, whenever you come across one of these people that doesn't bullshit as much, that actually says what they are going to do and do it, and not just talking in platitudes about things that they've regurgitated from what they've heard someone else say and got away with. Those are the people you, me, everyone else watching thinks to themselves, man, people like you are hard to come across. And I think we all need to strive to be more like that. Yes, it's harder work. Yes, you have to be the bigger person because you might get burned, because most people don't operate this way in this industry. But I think at the end of the day, at the end of your career, I think the ROI is there. I think the market does end up rewarding you long term for this, even though it rewards you short term for bullshitting. This applies to job seekers too. How many of you guys and gals, be honest, sit there, just mass click buttons and send the same resume to every job even though you don't apply? I recently came across this. I'm not a job recruiter, but a friend of mine has a CRO that needed a regulatory affairs and a something else. I think it was like either had CTM experience or regulatory affairs experience or both. And it was very clearly written in my post. I got people not connected to me, but I don't care, sending their resumes that did not qualify, and then they have the nerve to follow up with me later and say, hey, where do I stand? You know, when can we talk about this job? First of all, it's not my job. I'm just doing a favor for someone. And number two, like, they didn't even say thank you. And number two, you literally admit that you don't qualify for this role. So I forwarded your info to the right people, but you didn't really go above and beyond anything to highlight your strengths. They wanted to have a phone call. Well, that's not how it works. That's on your time, not on my time. And again, it wasn't for my role. But job seekers do this all the time, even at my site, Human Clinical Trials, when we have a post. So many people bullshit. They come in, they don't do their homework. You know, they have our website, they can research, research, research. And they don't. Like, very few do. And those are the ones that actually get hired. Those are the ones that actually do well. Those are the ones where you're like, wow, this person's different. So the market will reward you long term for not bullshitting as much. But it's just, I don't know. I mean, I've been doing this 20 years. The bullshit has really not gotten better. There used to be way more mystery around this industry. And I think, there's been people like myself. I'm glad to be a part of that. But others, like Brad, other content creators, other people on LinkedIn that do discuss in an authentic manner, like the real issues that are plaguing us. Like diversity is another good example. Well, okay, it sounds good to say, but what are we actually doing about it at the site level? How are we training sites? How are we empowering sites to actually go out into their communities? We're not. We're going to the same sites over and over and expecting that because we're talking about diversity, that things are going to get done. So there's a lot. We can do a lot better as a whole, myself included. You will get rewarded long term, even though you might get burned short term for sticking to your higher principles and values. But I really think we shouldn't bullshit each other. We shouldn't look to each other as transactional interactions. We should look to each other to build relationships with the ones that you want. You're not going to want to build a relationship with everyone else because, again, a lot of people are bullshitting in this space. The last thing I want to do is build a relationship with someone like that. But I will try my best, and I encourage you to do the same, to go above and beyond, not to be lazy, not to tell people what they want to hear or what you think they want to hear, but tell them the truth. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Sorry for the rant, Guru Nation. Every now and then I do that. Bye-bye.